Hi everyone, welcome to the Laser channel where we learn, create, and share. My name is Greg, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the family of 3D printers by QIDI Tech. Welcome back, and thanks for joining me in another video on the Laser channel. This video is going to be divided up into kind of three different areas, with the first one being on what's similar and different between these QIDI Tech family of 3D printers. Next, I'll go into kind of what printer fits the best application for different types of users. And then finally, I'm going to show you a 3D print on the Max3 using one of the files that is included with the machine. All right, let's get started with the machines that I have in front of me right now. In the family of 3D printers, the base model or the entry model is the Mart 3. In the middle would be the X Plus 3, and then the top tier in this family is the Max 3. The most apparent thing that we're going to see is the size differences between the entry level and the top tier. Of course, the X Plus 3 in the middle is going to be a little bit closer to the build volume of the Max 3. And speaking of the build volume, the Smart 3 comes in at about 175 inches square on the build platter with the Z-axis or build height of about 170 millimeters. When we do the conversion on that, that comes out to about 6 inches cubed. The X Plus 3 is going to be a little bit larger, with the build square being 280 millimeters square and the build height of about 270 millimeters. And when we move to the top tier X Max 3, that is going to be 325 millimeters square on the build platter with the height build of 315 millimeters. When we do the conversion of that, that's going to be north of 12 inches in any one direction. So quite a bit of a difference between the build volumes. The Smart 3 is going to enter the market right now during the 2023 winter holiday season, coming in at just under $300 US. The X Plus 3 is going to come in at $589 US, and the top tier X Max 3 comes in at sub $900 at $899 US. So different price points with different features, and we're going to dig into some of those details now. Printing speeds across this family are going to be very similar. The Smart 3 comes in at a print speed of 500 millimeters per second. The X Plus 3 and the Max machine coming in at 600 millimeters per second. The Smart 3 is really geared towards the entry-level beginners market, and because of this, the extruder temperature on the hothead goes up to 300 degrees C, which is good for a lot of the filaments out on the market. But when you get into the specialty and performant filaments that are currently on the market, that is where we switch over to the X Plus 3 and the X Max 3, where the hotheads reach a temperature of up to 350 degrees C. The main processor and memory that is really the core of how these machines work on the software side, connecting the software up to the electric motors on here, they're going to be the same across all three machines. All three machines will also feature a CoreXY System framework, and let's take a close-up look at that right now. We'll take a look at the CoreXY System on the Smart 3 first. Now, this CoreXY system is the framework in which the hothead travels around on these carbon fiber guides and metal rods along the side. There's also some metal rods along the side here, and in the back we can see a belt here and another belt up here. This framework for the Smart 3 uses both metal and composite materials to make sure that this remains very accurate and extremely fast when we're working on a 3D print. When we check out the X Max 3, it's going to be basically the same build as the X Plus 3, only the build volume in here is going to, of course, be a little bit larger. This XY system on this machine has a very similar setup. However, the framework all around and across the bottom here, this is going to be an all metal framework. The top guide bars here for the hothead switched out from lightweight carbon fiber to a more durable 10 millimeter guide rod. We'll also see in the back here, there's the same two belts. These belts end up being about twice as wide with the extra build volume to make sure that we have a nice, stable, vibration-free hothead during our prints. Speaking of prints, here's just a small sampling of the prints that I made on the Mart3 machine. And here I've got a nice multicolored gnome. If I flip it around, I think we get a little bit of green on the backside. And the layer buildup on this is absolutely perfect on these. And here I've got a nice business card holder, a garden gnome. Here's a nice build, and this is still off of the Mart3. So even though it's the entry-level machine in this family of QIDI Tech machines, the quality of the prints is still phenomenal. And on the very end here is the little tugboat, and this was made on the QIDI Tech Max3. Even though the Mart3 is kind of the entry level in this family of 3D printers, the print quality does not suffer whatsoever. The print quality across the entire family of machines here is going to remain the same, with the main difference being the build volume and the types of filaments that can be used. Again, a lot of the basic filaments are fully compatible with the Mart3, with a lot of the performance and specialty filaments moving towards the X+3 and the Max3. The last thing that we're going to check out is going to be the full color display between these two machines. Let's check out the Mart3 first. It's a nice, beautiful color display. And when I take a measurement on it, we'll see that it comes in at 4.3 inches. The Max3 also gets a very nice, beautiful display. We'll also note that the layout of the screen is very similar to the Mart3, with a lot of the menu selection being on the far left-hand side of the screen. When we take a measurement of this screen, we'll find that it comes out to a 5-inch screen, with the resolution being a little bit higher than the Mart3. After covering a lot of the detailed specs on all of the machines here, it's nice to see that each machine was built with a different type of user in mind, and this is the second part of the video on what type of machine would be best for you. I covered just some of the technical specifications on this family of 3D printers. There's definitely a lot more, and if you'd like to check those out, I will have a link in the video description down below. For myself, I'm a general user of a 3D printer, meaning I just want to send a file out to the machine and enjoy the print that comes off of it, whether it's a completed multicolor filament vase or something like this garden gnome that was printed in just standard gray, and I spent a nice relaxing evening painting this up. This is perfect now to place around the house or out in the garden. I found that most of the builds that I wanted to do on the Mart3 fit within the build volume. There are a couple of prints that I found that would not fit in this machine, and they just wouldn't function correctly if they were scaled down to fit inside of there. And that's where we would move on to the X+3 that would be in the middle of this family of machines, where the build volume now moves up to about 1 cubic foot. It also opens up the opportunity to start working with some specialty filaments and high performance filaments. You heard me just say that I'm really just a general user of the printers, and the Mart3 really fits that. So where does the Max3 fit into appearing on my table here? And that is because this has the largest build volume, and I'm all about options. There might be some prints down the road that I would like to use some glass-filled or carbon fiber-filled filaments. The last thing that I want to mention here is the size and the weight between the Mart3 and the Max3. While I don't print on this every day, It is nice to know that when I'm not using it, I can easily pick this up and put it away on a storage shelf until the next time I'm ready to use it. And I'm pretty flexible on the table that I'm able to put it on. It doesn't need to support a whole lot of weight. When I move over to this machine, it's going to be the exact opposite. This machine weighs in at over 30 kilograms, and when we do the conversion on that, that is over 66 pounds. So I do need to be careful on the bench that I place this on. It does need to be very, very stable. The other part is the size, and this isn't something where I've got a nice little cubby where I can just tuck this away when I'm not using it. I can't do that the way that I can with the smaller X Smart 3. So this is really intended for I wouldn't say a permanent setup, but this is something that I don't want to move every other day. I've talked about the high build quality of these machines, and now it's time for the third part of the video where I'm going to do a print on the Max3 using one of the included files on the machine. For this print, I'm going to be using a multicolored spool of filament from QIDI. This is their CR series, and this is intended for the mid-end user, which is perfect for myself and printing on the Max3. And here's a nice close-up of the front of the box, and when I flip that over, we get a nice description on each of the types of filaments that is offered by QIDI. Here's what that spool looks like. I have absolutely no idea what this sample print is going to look like because I never printed in something that had all of these different colors. When I flip this around and we get this right side up, on this little tag here is going to have specifically what type of filament it is, the diameter, and the recommended print temperatures. Off camera, I'm going to install this multicolor filament on this printer. I'll cue in some nice relaxing music for you to sit back, relax, and watch the 3D print.